All righty, looks like we're ready to roll today. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Grace Lutheran Church in New Albany, Indiana. We'd like to welcome everybody here who's here with us today, and especially those who are watching on Facebook Live. I'm Ben Wiemeller, and I've been a member here for over 30 years, so I guess you can say I've seen Pastor K grow up. Now, to kick off today's festivities under the direction of Helen Bohannon, please welcome members of the Grace Lutheran Choir.
Now, some of you may not know, for those who've been here at Grace for many, many years, you probably know that one of Pastor's favorite anthems that we used to sing was Tiny King. And just about sing Tiny King. It got, 3 or 4 years in a row we'd be singing that thing. It's like, oh my God, not again. So anyway, and I think for one of his birthday celebrations, we rewrote the words of this song and made Tiny Bruce. And it was, so we did another rendition for your 30th anniversary. Well, congratulations, Pastor, on your 30 years here at Grace Lutheran Church. You are the true definition of the word pastor. You are the shepherd of your flock here at Grace, but care about each individual person. From 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, we remember before our God and Father your work produced by faith, your labor prompted by love, and your endurance inspired by hope in our Lord Jesus Christ. Happy 30th anniversary, Pastor K.
Most of us only see a pastor work one day a week. And maybe that's really only a half day a week, but we'll say one full day a week. But you know what? They do a whole lot more. On occasion, they have special services, special events, things like baptisms, weddings, confirmation classes. Why, Pastor Kischnick's first baptism took place on August 25th, 1991. That young man is now 29 years old, and he is joining us here today. Please welcome Devin Leininger. The very first one. And look, he's still here with us. Let me see a show of hands, or please stand up. If you were baptized by Pastor K, please stand up. There's a few of us here today. I see about 5, 6, 7. Great job, Pastor. Oh, we'll get there, Pastor. Just hold still. Pastor Kischnick's first wedding took place on September 19th, 1991, when he joined together in holy matrimony David and Sue Ellen Dinky. David and Sue Ellen have joined us here today. And I know I speak for the entire congregation when I say it's so good to have you two back in New Albany. And David, I'm just going to remind you that September 19th, and that's about 2 weeks away. Sue Ellen remembers. I just want you to remember because you've got 2 weeks to prepare. Okay, we mentioned the confirmation class, and everybody knows here what a wonderful job Pastor does with the confirmands over the years. So Pastor K's first confirmation class would have celebrated their achievement in the spring of 1992. Joining us today from that very first class are Nick Brock, Travis Belden, Angie Lawson Dominguez, and David Poland. We're so glad you guys made it back today. Okay, so we got to see who was all baptized. Who all in this room went through confirmation with Pastor K? Now that is a nice group right there. Stand up, Jane. Oh, she wasn't part of that group. Pastor Dinky was our pastor there. Okay, well, a lot sure has happened in 30 years, and we've all been truly blessed by Pastor K and his ministry. But let's take a look back and see what Pastor's been up to over the last 30 years.
Truth that keep your dreams at bay. Don't stand there waiting for the time to come. Come on, catch me, we got miles to run. We are alive, the skin is leaving these bones. Fire in the wind, we're burning out of control. We are the children chasing wondrous things, chasing a vision, baby, like we're running downhill. Surface, let our lungs ignite. Slip past the guards before they raise the guns. Come on, catch me, we got miles to run. We are alive, the skin is leaving these bones. Fire in the wind, we're burning out of control. We are the children chasing wondrous things, chasing a vision, baby, like we're running downhill. Off the ground. We are alive, the skin is leaving these bones. Fire in the wind, we're burning out of control. We are the children chasing wondrous thrills, chasing a vision, baby, like we're running downhill.
Am I on? Yep. As you can see in that video, just how many lives Pastor has truly touched over his 30 years here, and we're all better for it. We have a few individuals here with us today who can help us all get a better understanding of who Pastor K really is. Of who Pastor K really is. And first up, to give us some insight on who Pastor K really is, please welcome back Grace Lutheran's former youth director. She only goes by one name. We just always call her Mitzi.
Oh, what to say, what to say. As we were planning this, so many memories just flooded my brain. So many memories that brought laughter to where we just laughed till our sides ached. And by that video, you can see how many truly memories that I have with you. Thank you for 30 years. Thank you for all that you do for Grace, that you continue to do for Grace, and for all of the inspiration that you gave me during my ministry here. I learned from the best, and I can truly say that. I think it's safe to say that as I stand here today, besides his lovely family sitting here, I've known him the longest. We began our relationship back in Evansville, more Darmstadt, at Trinity Lutheran Darmstadt, where he was the principal and Becky was the preschool teacher. And we started there, and he decided to go into the ministry, and my late husband and I decided to move here. Little did we know that 2 years later, I would be sitting in a voters' assembly, and they announced that our vicar was going to be Bruce Kischnick. And I'm like, I know that guy. He's going to be great. So memories, starting with moving you into your first home, your rental, and then your other house, and then your other house. After he served a year of vicarage, well, no, actually before, when he started his vicarage, I was really the only one he knew. And when he started his vicarage here, he was in charge of the youth. So who does he call? The only person he knows, he needed a female counselor. So I get a phone call. Yeah, that's right, the rest is history. And I helped him do youth ministry for a year, and then our congregation called him as our senior pastor. And then I took on the role as a volunteer and did the youth. And I don't know how many times, this was before the new edition, how many times I walked into your office and said, hey, Pastor, what if I do this? Can I do this? I asked him numerous of questions about theology, scripture, when I was unsure, and I can't tell you what a better teacher he was during that time. Then I became the youth director, had a little bit more confidence underneath my belt at that time, and I can't sit here. The pictures say a lot of what we did. But from being bored on a Wednesday night during the summer with my kids and transforming his office into a jungle, to taking a very large monkey called Chauncey and stapling a newspaper to his hands and taking him over to his house and sitting him on a toilet, along with a lot of unwrapped Hershey Kisses, to... he ate them, to waking up on a camping trip one time with Chauncey in a noose under a shelter. And then we proceeded to take Chauncey, this very large monkey, to his house where we thought we were going to get him back. And the kids, you know, when you're doing something and you don't want to get caught, that adrenaline. So the adrenaline was going. There was a whole caravan there were 2 vans. It was back when the purple van, all kinds of kids and counselors. And we'd pull up, we picked a couple of kids to get out and duct tape Chauncey to his front tree. Well, all of a sudden they come back screaming to the vans, "He's out! He's out! He's got a gun! He's got a gun!" So, to be honest, it was just a BB gun. But the story is just better if you call it a shotgun. So me and the kids, we laugh about the time that Pastor chased us with a shotgun. Then there is the time where we were bored again. And we decided, Pastor was out of town, and he had an old blue jalopy car, and he left it in the back parking lot. Pastor Woods was working on VBS. We came in and talked to him, so we got an idea. We're bored. We need a project. So we proceeded to take his wheels off of his car and put his car on cinder blocks. Then we wrote a very long note and told him that, things happen, and if you find yourself in a predicament, you might want to call this number. Oh yeah, and Chauncey was on the hood. Rose Crockett at the time was on vacation, and she was upset that she was missing all the activities. So I called her, and I gave her verbatim things to say, kind of like if you called AAA. I had numbered the wheels, so we knew exactly where to put them back. And I think, Ryan, you were involved in this, along with Andrew and Pastor. And when he came back, he found his car on cinder blocks. But we had our AAA team ready, and we put them all back right where they were. That was probably the best thing I ever did. I can't even go into all of the countless retreats we've done together, confirmation retreats. There was one time he punked me. My leadership team had always goes out to the confirmation retreats, and they were playing games with the kids. And I think it was Rose, again, who comes running up to the cabinet at Camp Cedarbrook, and she says, Mitzi, somebody's hurt. Can you come down? Pastor's with him, but he's not responsive. So I run down, and there I find one of my youth wrapped around a tree, unresponsive. And I look at Pastor, and I'm like, well, we need to call 911. And he kept putting me off. And I'm like, Pastor, this is crazy. We need to call 911. And Pastor goes, oh, wait a minute. Just hang on a second. And he reaches down, and he tickles the kid. And the kid woke up, and he got me. Got me good. It was. Then we started a group called the Question Mark Gang, and I can't tell you how many times your car was saran wrapped. We actually saran wrapped your entire office. We took his desk and saran wrapped everything in his desk and around and around. Those were the things that me and the kids did. And I have to say, with everything, you had a great attitude and loved every minute as much as we did. When I think about a shepherd, when Jesus was here and he taught us what a true shepherd is and how to run his church, I can't think of a person that is more of a shepherd than you. Not only does he know all of his sheep by name, but he is the most caring, compassionate, loving man. And I was proud to work with him, and I'm proud to call him my friend. It was an honor, a complete honor to work with you for 25 years. But I'm leaving one very important detail out, because PK is not only known as being a great shepherd and the senior pastor here at Grace Lutheran Church, but he also deserves this award. If you guys know anything, we have a chili cook-off once a year. And I do believe this is a very, very deserving award. So, Pastor, could you please stand up? I think he deserves this. if you can't read, that is very bling. I decorate everything in bling. It says the Great Chili King. So, all right, this is good. This is good, but it's just not enough. So, I do believe he deserves a cape. But now, if you know us very well, it can't just be the Great Chili King. It has to have a little bit of monkey business attached to it. So, Pastor, this is your cape. There is something missing. The Great Chili King. Every king deserves a crown. Along with a little monkey business. That is a bowl of chili on top, by the way. And one last thing, every king deserves a scepter. So, congratulations, Pastor, on 30 years and being Grace Lutheran's greatest chili king. I love you, my friend.
Your Highness. Oh, gosh. Now, please welcome Grace Lutheran's Associate Pastor and resident comedian, Pastor Matthew Woods.
You'll probably hit me with that later. Well, what do you say? 30 years, some of you may not know, but, this man did have a little bit of a life before coming here. It's 12 years, right? You were a principal and teacher. So one of the things you want to recognize or remember today is that he's been in the ministry 42 years, not just 30. So that also deserves a round of applause. But he does have his feathers ruffled from time to time. Probably, I like your little bowl in your hat. It's very appropriate. Without even trying, I enter my same awesome vegetarian chili every year. And without even trying, I won one year, and he didn't. Oh, he just couldn't. Oh, no way. That just doesn't happen. There's no meat in there. That can't really be chili. His 4 or 5 that he entered that year didn't win.
We never had those judges back either.
Yeah. He saw to it that we wouldn't have that kind of actual contest again. So that's always helpful. But he can get his feathers ruffled. And you know when they're starting to get ruffled. And tell me if I'm right, Becky. He starts getting a bobblehead. Have you noticed that? His head starts moving around because he's got a point to make. And when he gets flustered and his feathers are getting ruffled, his head starts moving. Am I right? Yeah. So he's got his own kind of a live version of a bobblehead going on when he does get his feathers ruffled. So the little quirks that you'd pick up on after a little of the time. We worked together almost 20 years. Yeah, you see it moving. It's like, okay. You know something's coming because the face gets red next, and then teeth begin to get together, and then something major is going to be discussed. You can just pick up on these kind of things. So that sort of happened, and you got to understand the man's competitive, just a little bit. And so every year, of course, we get the deer report. And, last year wasn't a big one, but, when he does this, he really means deer, not king. Right? And so when, we got his big buck, I don't know, what was that, 50 points, something like that. It was a big one, of course, and I had to hear every detail. And what you people don't understand is that if he's telling the deer story, I'm just the first one. So after that, it's the elders meeting, it's the council meeting, it's with the family, it's with the folks out in front. And don't forget, we got an 8 o'clock and a 10:30 service where we get to hear it again. So what's that? Anybody that'll listen. I'll tell it right now, yeah. And so, there are those things. He's a storyteller, and I'm fortunate enough to probably do it almost verbatim by the time he tells it to the last person. So you do get to hear that. And also, when it comes to the thing that ruffles his feathers the most, just drive slow in front of him. Does not like that. Here was my first experience with his driving when I first moved here. Trish can verify this. We had a Ryder truck. And this Ryder truck was trying to, remember you had the little blue car that we put up on, at one time we put it on its blocks. At one time we took the tires. Remember that? Yeah, that's the same car. So he says, follow me. We're taking the truck back. We didn't have cell phones back then. Follow me. We get up on Blackston Mill Road, he makes the right turn, and he's gone. Now, why we didn't get on the bypass and go all the way around to Jeffersonville is beyond me. But we had to take the shortcut. By the way, that's his other driving thing, shortcut. It's always got to take the back road. This is a shortcut. Oh, okay, all right. So we drive around, and I'm trying to keep up with this little sports car in my big Ryder truck, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know where he's at. So he doesn't like to drive slow, and if you get in front of him, drive slow, guess what? We get to hear a story. And the head begins to move. Right? Teeth get gritting? I don't know why you can't slow down. So anyway, so you kind of pick up on the little nuancy things after working together after 20 years. And one of the things that he complains about the most is running. Now, he runs 10 miles a week. You need to understand, jogging in Pastor Kischnick's world is a different picture altogether. It's kind of more like cross-country skiing. Going down the road, it's kind of a shuffle. But we had an occasion, and no, I'm not joking. We were out at a pastor's conference years ago, and I first came across running with Pastor Kischnick, and he was jogging. I'm not joking. The man looked like he was about to have a cardiac arrest. I thought for sure we were going to end up throwing that man in the car and running him up to the hospital. And what was his answer? Get away from me. I don't need you right now. Get away. I'm running. Right? So when you get 7 miles that day, every bit of it, looked every bit of it, for sure. So I thought today it would be good to have some incentive to run, like you're training for the Olympics. As Paul says, run the good race, right? Well, I'd say he's run a pretty good race for 30 years, but to get him over the finish line, I thought I'd give him a few things that he can wear, kind of to boost up that American spirit as he runs. So I got him a couple. And you won't have to put these on, because I know how much you like your cape and your crown. But to start us off, I thought it was important that we have a jersey that we can run. So if you put this on, it's kind of like being in training. So you have your USA, but it's reversible if you want to go the other way too. You just want to go one direction or another. But I think this will help you run down the road. The reason this is important is because every time we go to pastor's conference, by the time the conference is over, half the room is draped with sweaty, nasty clothes that he'd been running with. So we thought maybe he needed a little extra, because some of them look pretty worn out. So we'll give that to you there. And it's also important that you have fast socks. So I thought maybe we would have, the good old-fashioned striped socks from back in the day, yanked up to about your knees, And these are brand new. And so the best part about these kind of socks is they're sort of compression socks. So maybe they'll push the blood back up into his heart and his mind, so he won't be able to, he won't feel so faint or look so rough at the end of it. And I've got a couple paired for you, just so you need it, because they do get sweaty and nasty, believe me, I know. And finally, I think it's important that we have our sweatbands, that we put these on our arms and our head, because we know how, you try that on, see that? Because back when he started, 91, the 80s, these were a big thing in 90s. I couldn't find what I really wanted to find were the Richard Simmons shorts, but I couldn't get my hands on them. But that'll help you there. Because, yeah, we would too, don't worry. So anyway, I wanted to pass those on to you because that way you'd be able to run your race and not get too nasty and sweaty, have some things to wipe your head off with, and maybe things won't smell so bad in the hotel room after conference is over. So, needless to say. So it's been, let me tell you, it's been my pleasure to work with this man for 20 years. He has a good sense of humor. He's a good pastor. He's a good man to work with. And we have a lot of fun. We do. We have a lot of fun. And a lot of times at his expense. But I'll tell you what, he can dish it out as well as he can take it, buddy. So, it goes both ways. We have our fun. And I just want to tell you, it's been a real privilege to work with you for 20 years. It's been awesome. And I think the ministry here at Grace is awesome because of that. It's not too often that you get a good team ministry like this. I've worked in both, where it's just so-so. It's either not great or it's great. But it's usually not in between. Well, we've got something great. And it's been awesome. It's a lot of fun. And I look forward to the years ahead and serving together and wherever the Lord may take us and what we can celebrate together again. So from this point on, I wish you the Lord's grace and the blessings, and thank you for being a good friend. The Lord be with you. Here's the rest of your stuff. There's a card in there for you, too.
I think that's from the Forrest Gump collection that you have. And now, let's welcome to the microphone here the person who may know more about Pastor K than he even knows about himself. And that would be the church secretary, Karen Meredith.
He's threatening me already. You can give me some money later for saying all these nice things I'm going to say. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I've worked with Pastor Kischnick for 30 years. We practically grew up together, so he's a great boss. A lot of fun to be around. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be here. So, I made some notes here. I kind of figured somebody was going to get me up here. So, as a congregation, you guys are so blessed to have him. I mean, I've seen him preach, but I've also seen him behind the scenes. And he's just like us, He's not up here with you guys. He's right here. And so he is the real deal. So what you see is what you get. So but he's not just your pastor. He's also your friend. So, there are some pastors it's not comfortable to be a friend with. But he's your friend. And so one other thing, I have one story to tell on him. For you that know him well enough, he does not like electronics.
I don't care if it's a cell phone, a computer, a typewriter. He hates them. The copier, yes. And to my next point, we used to have this old typewriter. Hopefully everyone knows what those are still. And he insisted on using that thing. I wanted it gone. I kept thinking, one day we're not even going to be able to get cartridges for this thing anymore, you know? But he keeps using it. So one day he was in my office at a table, and he was using this thing, and he's typing away, and, you know, he's fussing and complaining and grumbling. And next thing I know, he picks that thing up, and he throws it on the floor. Do you remember that? Yes. And he starts fussing and stomping and kicking that thing. And of course, you know, I'm just sitting there like, oh, thank God. Finally, it's gone. But we had a parishioner in there at the time. She's gone now, but I could tell, I could see her back, but I couldn't see her face. But I could tell by her stature, she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on with my pastor?
It went in the dumpster, didn't it?
Yes. And so, but she goes, is he okay? I said, who? Pastor K? I said, yeah, he's fine. I said, oh, trust me, Anna, that typewriter was a piece of junk. This is a good thing. So anyway, that's the only funny story you're going to get from me on Pastor K. But yeah, that was a good thing, though. So, and it's been a joy working with you, and I've enjoyed it. So as long as you stick around, I'm here. You can't ever retire.
I got news for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Next up, she's currently our children's minister. Please welcome Sabrina Hogue.
I might have to pull the mic down further than Karen did. I have been the children's minister for officially 2 years. I have worked with the children of the congregation for the better part of 10 years. And so I'm probably the one that has worked with Pastor the least. But in those 10 years, and especially in the last 2, it's hard to say something new than has already been said, because he is exactly what people before me have reported, is that he is a shepherd, he is an encourager, he is a great teacher, and I'm very happy to be in the role that I'm in at Grace Lutheran and working with him. So, thank you very much, Pastor.
How tall are you, Rose? Just 2? Next up, please welcome our current youth director, Rose Crockett Ebling.
Already leading our youth astray, are you?
Yes. My other youth that are here, don't be shy. Come on up. Don't be shy. I see you. PK, 30 years in the ministry. Wow. As I was thinking about your years of service, I kept thinking about 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 through 8. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He who loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. You are exceptional at loving people in the name of God. You give your time, your energy, and your heart to God's people. Grace has been and continues to be blessed by you and your ministry. I never knew how blessed I was until I went away to college and I was trying to find a new home church. One thing I learned is it's not really this, it's this. I thought they were doing it wrong, and then when I mentioned that to one of them, they said, no, it's this, and then I realized he just didn't have those fingers there. So thank you for that. But while I was away, I was in a different state, miles and miles away. Pastor would still take the time to send notes of encouragement, and it just made me feel so loved. Even though I wasn't at home with my church family, I still felt connected to my church family. And so I thank you for the love that you have not only shown me, but all the youth, because I know that you still continue to do that. Now, sometimes you expressed your love in other ways to the youth of the congregation. Sometimes he would stuff a giant monkey into a tiny box, so when you opened it, you about had a heart attack because it popped right out at you. So, heart attacks in love. Sometimes you would come running after us, like Mitzi said, in love, but chasing us away with a gun. A little rude, but still all in love. So as the youth and I were trying to think, okay, what could we give him to show him love as he has loved us? And so to do that, we'd like to present you with a barrel of monkeys. So if you could stand up over here.
I did notice this morning that all my monkeys were missing from my office. What am I supposed to do? Poor Pastor Ken.
So monkeys is a long-standing joke with PK. Just in case you don't know where it comes from, he, on one trip that we'd always go on, he would say, no monkeys. And so, of course, some more rambunctious of us would bring a monkey. And so that's kind of how it all got started. But now, if you can get a good look, instead of just passing monkeys, we can now pass along Pastor K. A little bit. Just want to say thank you to Colleen Garber. She helped us out by doing all of this sewing. So big shout out to thank her, and thank you again for your years of service.
Thank you all. Thank you. Make it yourself. They all signed it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And now, Pastor, a blast from the past. He just arrived, but never too late. Former pastor here at Grace Lutheran Church, please welcome back Pastor Kurt Peters.
They weren't supposed to let you in.
Yeah, I know. I sneaked in. So I apologize that I couldn't be here longer. This is a kind of a wild day. We have an event at the 9/11 event this afternoon at the Fire Museum and other things going on, preached this morning and the like. But it's great to be here, especially to honor my good friend and fellow pastor. Let me say one of the things that I think about when I think of Pastor K. He is one who comes to the rescue. Well, if we think back to when he came here as a vicar, okay? When he arrived, Pastor Denke was ill with his cancer, devastating. I was full-time at the university, and he came to the rescue. So that's the way he was. He was a rescuer. Now there's an event, a special event that really brings this out beautifully. And that was, I think, in the summer of '91. Is that the summer that your vicarage ended? Okay, summer of '91. And Pastor Denke, I think, what was his death date? I don't remember. Yeah. So he was no longer here. I had been committed to directing an overseas study program for Indiana University in Austria. And on one, I think it was on a Saturday, during the day, there was a wedding here. Now, Pastor K was not yet authorized to conduct a wedding, and I believe the wedding was not for members of the parish. Am I right about this? Okay, all right. So I was in Austria, so I'm telling you about an event that I've only heard secondhand, but what an event it was.
Patty and Rick Henson.
Okay, all right. So Pastor, then I'm going to say Vicar K, because we have to make that distinction for this story. He was in the congregation, and there was another pastor, I think from out at Epiphany, was conducting the service. Pastor K, Vicar K, noticed during the service what looked like a little bit of smoke behind the altar outside above the window. Some smoke. Looked at it, went out to investigate it, saw that there was smoldering, a little fire was forming out there where there had been probably some bird's nests or something among the wiring and the like, right above the window, directly behind the altar on the outside. So he, the rescuer, calls the fire department. They come, climb up during the wedding service, climb up, take care of that, clean it all out, douse it. The wedding goes on. They're happily married, thank goodness. And what an event. So there he is, the rescuer. Now, another thing that I think about when I think of him is how good he is at giving personal greetings to people, with honoring people, remembering their birthdays, remembering anniversaries, and so forth. I still get a birthday card from him, handwritten, every year. And so anyway, that was really special. And he is one who is multitasking. I don't know if you know this about him, but when we have pastoral conferences, he's able to do something I can't. If I'm writing a card, I can't pay attention to what's being said, but he is able to do that. He'll be writing cards and listening to everything that's going on and involved in everything. Anyway, one of the things about him that I remember right from the outset is that he had special joy in remembering my birthday because I'm older than he is. And he loved to bring that out, celebrate my birthday with the congregation, in an announcement at the church or whatever it might be at a fellowship meal. And he would always emphasize my age. Now, you should know that at that time, I was 49. Now, I'd like to ask you, how old are you today? 49, all right. But anyway, it always has been a source of a lot of fun and humor for me. So that's been great. I also think of him as a loyal fan of Michigan. Now, have you ever noticed he doesn't talk very much about the Lions? Have you ever noticed that? He doesn't talk much about the Tigers. He focuses on Michigan, except for 1 week in the year. It's usually right around Thanksgiving, and they happen to be playing Ohio State. And all of a sudden, his cheerfulness turns sour, and because of what has happened. But it is a great honor, a great honor for me to be able to congratulate my brother in the pastoral ministry, my dear, dear friend, Bruce Kay. So, thank you. Yeah, and I'm sorry that I have to excuse myself, but roast him well, okay? All right.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Pastor Peters, for coming back in. It was good to see you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
I think I forgot to ask when I was talking about the weddings earlier, if Pastor Kay actually married you, would you mind standing up? Now, that's another good group, Pastor. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get everybody in this room to stand up. If you have received a handwritten birthday card from Pastor Kay, please stand up. I figured everybody needed to stretch their legs, and I thought that was the best way to, just kind of work it into the program. Okay, I know we have Matthew Lopnow left, but would we anyone from the family like to say a few words? And Dan says, this is my best opportunity. I've got him where I want him. Daniel Kischnick. Dr. Dan.
Thank you. Well, I'd just like to confirm for you guys that everything that's been said today is for sure the truth. But you guys only know the half of it. I tell you, there's so many stories. We've heard about his jogging. Have you guys heard a story about how he injured himself jogging? It's only happened once that he hurt himself while he was jogging. Now, he looks like he's hurting every time he jogs, to the point that my sister-in-law, Teresa, saw him out jogging one day, didn't realize that it was him jogging, and started to pull over because she felt like there was an old man in distress. But he's only actually injured himself once. He sprained his ankle running. Now, you would ask, how could a person who has run every day almost for, what now, almost 30 years, get to the point where they injured their ankle while they're running? Because he should be used to running, knows how to put his feet down, knows how to watch for hazards in the road. But see, you can only watch for hazards in the road if your eyes are open. And I think the other thing that happens when you're running every day is you get a little bit bored with running, particularly if you're like my dad, who likes to have his mind going and likes to challenge himself in different ways every day. So he had been trying for about a week to see how far he could run with his eyes closed, as you do when you're running. That lasted about a week, and then he didn't realize there was a curb and twisted his ankle. We also have lived in fear for years wondering when we're going to get the call from the police that he's been arrested for public indecency because he's been caught going to the bathroom on his run. So you guys know him very well, but I will tell you that there's so much more that's just below the surface that you may never find out. I hope that you guys are thankful that you don't have to know those things like we do, because there's a lot of them. But, you know, a lot of the things that you said, too, about That's right. I had to be a little bit mean first so I could be nice now. About how he cares about people. I think that's the thing that sets him apart. The stories about the handwritten notes don't just include the people here in his congregation, they include his family as well. Not just us and his immediate family, but those that are in his extended family. He takes extraordinary efforts every day to think about the people in his life, to take care of them, and if they're in need, help them. And that is a unique characteristic in an individual, and something that we don't see enough in daily life today in this world, as is evidenced clearly every single day by what we see on social media and in the news. It's the example that Christ set. It's the true example. And he's lived that way every day. He's also not afraid to show his faults, as you guys have made clear today. One of the great privileges of knowing my dad is that you actually get to know him. There's no barrier between you and him. He shares himself with you. All the good parts and some of the bad. And that's the picture that allows you to know the man. And I think that's the thing that's unique. You know, I asked him once we were talking, I don't remember what the context was, talking about frustrations and being a leader or being, you know, somebody who has to take care of other people. And he told me, Dan, the only thing they need to know is that I love them. That's it. That's been the guiding principle from the day he took over here until today. And I know he's very appreciative today of the fact that you guys have done this for him. But the real gift you've given him is allowing him to be a part of your lives. And I know that's the thing he's most grateful for, and the thing that he thanks God for every night when he goes to bed. And so I want to give a thank you to you for allowing him to be a part of your lives every day, because that's the thing that he lives for. You know, when he came here, I remember his ordination day. What did I do that day, Dad?
You cried.
Yeah. Just like I'm doing now.
You were the acolyte.
I was the crucifer that day. I carried the cross down, and I was the last one to walk up with my dad after he was ordained with that cross again. And I stood on the altar up there, and I sobbed. I sobbed. He asked me afterwards why I cried. And I told him I was proud. I'd seen him work. I'd known my dad. I'd watched him from the time he was a teacher to be a principal. The hard years of doing seminary with no money. We lived a year on $12,000, a family of 5. We lived in government housing. We had nothing. We shopped in food banks and clothing banks. He worked. He pushed. He had a goal, and it was to be here with you. And that day, that came true. And I was so proud. And I've been proud ever since that day of the things he's done and the man he is. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for recognizing it.
else in the family? Boy, I don't know how you follow that, but I'll give you a choice. You can take a chance. Wonderful, Dan. Thank you so much. Okay. The wife, who may know more about him than even anyone here knows. Becky?
I'll keep all your secrets. I think some of you know this story, but Bruce and I, of course, went to Lutheran colleges together. And I was 17 when we got married, and he was 19, so we were just little kids. And we made it through college together, worked our way through. We paid our own college. And we had decided we were going to be Lutheran teachers. And later on, he was interested in the ministry. And I did not want him to be a pastor. And so he would mention it, and I'd say, no way. I don't want my children to be pastors' children. I don't want to be a pastor's wife. I'm really not cut out to be a pastor's wife. And when you hear about PKs, pastors' kids, it's not always a good thing. So when we went to Darmstadt, the Lord has always led us in everything that we have done. And we got to Darmstadt, and the pastor was experiencing some difficulties, and so Bruce was called on to preach and do a lot of the things that a pastor does. And his first sermon, and he will tell you this, he got up there and he was preaching, and I thought it was getting a little too long, and he was looking at me, and I went like this. He said he has never looked at me since that day when he's preaching. But on that day, when I heard his sermon, I realized that God was directing him in a new direction. And so when he came home, I said, if you want to be a pastor, if that is really what you want to do, then go ahead. And the next day he was on the phone. So, and since then, I've been very proud that he made that decision. And as my son said, it was not easy on our family, picking them up and moving them to a new school. And they had to be on free and reduced lunch and in Lutheran schools. That was noticed at that time. And so they gave a lot for their father to become a pastor. And I love them very much for that. And most of all, I love my husband, and I'm very, very proud of him.
Well, then I think it's appropriate to say, even though we are recognizing Pastor for his 30 years in the ministry, it does take a whole family, which is very evident. So how about a big round of applause for the whole family? Okay, Matt, it's now up to you to get us all to stop crying. So now a young man who grew up here at Grace, and he's now the DCE out at St. John's in Lanesville. Please welcome Matthew Lockdown.
To finish with tears. So I wanted to share one of my fondest memories with Pastor Kischnick growing up was a children's message that he did, and I still do it to this day. Anytime I can.
My life has not been easy. I was a different person, before all of this started. I was on my own, just trying to survive on the streets, But that all changed. I was picked up, thrown into a van, then moved from house to house, never really knowing where I was going to end up next. Sometimes we ended up at a church or someone's house, but I never really knew what was happening. But there was always one who was the same though. One man kept getting me, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it was because he was good. But no, what I saw in that man's eyes was pure hatred for me. He once tied me up and left me on top of a roof, just lying there hoping for someone to save me. For hours I waited, but no one came, until a child noticed me. Eventually, I joined a group of nice people, or so I thought at the time. We tried to fight back against this man, and despite all the times we fought back, I was always captured. Time and time again, I was captured, and this man would torture me, shove me into cramped boxes or cages and send me off to other people who then paraded me around and put my picture all over the internet. Then, I always knew, one way or another, I'd end up back with him. My old life is over, but I've been working on a little something of my own. Been brewing it up real special. And I've got a message for you, Bruce. You know who I am. You don't know where I am. And you'll never see me coming.
That'll explain this creepy guy I saw in the parking lot who said, hey, he wanted you to open this.
I'm sure he did.
There's a rope right here you can pull.
Can people see? Hershey Kisses, when they're unwrapped, look just like monkey poop. They taste a lot better, though. Chauncey! Hello, buddy! Never see him coming.
As before, we were so rudely interrupted. I do have a fun little thing. I did steal a children's message from you that I remember as a kid. It was on the first shall be last and last shall be first. And do you remember that with coins? No? Oh, well, I'm going to have to ruin it for some other kids then to explain it. So I remember as a kid, it was the lesson was the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And he had all of us come up there and he was like, okay, on the count of three, we're going to rush to make a line, and here's the front and here's the back. And everyone goes rushing in as they normally do when they're kids. And then with the prize being $1. $1 as a kid, that was a lot of money. And then everyone else, would get the second place would get a quarter or something, and everyone else get like a dime. And then we all rush in there, and then you start at the very front, the very first person, the person who came in first, they get a dime. And you get all the way backwards, and the very last person got $1. And I just was like, oh, got me. And since then, I've always used the opportunity. I was like, but I give you credit, so. It's a fun one to see the kids' reaction when they're like, yes, I'm first, and then they get the least amount. And it's a good surprise. But just thank you for all of the memories with Chauncey and stuff. It was on our way home after a Sunday or something, and we saw Chauncey on the side of the road in the trash. And we pulled him out, washed him up, sewed up some holes, and all because Pastor Kischnick told us a story about how when he was a kid, a monkey threw some poop at him, and how he has this like deep-seated hatred for monkeys and stuff. And so it's just been a lot of good, fun memories, and definitely a great guy to learn under and study under. And even collaborate with some now that I'm in ministry. So thank you, sir.
Well, that wraps up all of our guest speakers. So it's probably appropriate that at this time, someone would like to say something, Pastor. She's coming. Oh boy, she has a special present for you, Pastor. And it's not one can. And it's not 2 cans. It's a whole case.
Thank you so much.
Of canned sweet peas.
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you, Why, I can only imagine. Guess what we're having for dinner?
I would just like to tell all of you people here today that you have the best, the very best. And I'm thanking God every day for Him.
Okay, Pastor Kay, it's your turn to speak, if you would like to say a few words. Do you think you would like to say a few words? Ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Kischnick.
Becky's got me on the clock, so we'll keep it short. When I went to my vicarage assignment service up at Fort Wayne, they announced that I was going to be vicar at Grace Lutheran Church, New Albany, Indiana. I knew where New Albany was, but that's all I knew. And the documents they gave you told you nothing really about the congregation. So as soon as we got home, I got out my trusty Lutheran annual, and I looked up Grace Lutheran, New Albany, Indiana, and I immediately began to grit my teeth and grouse. Because the very first thing I saw about Grace Lutheran, New Albany, Indiana was Pastor Robert Denke, Pastor Curtis H. Peters. And I remember I said to Becky, I said, oh my God, they're sending me to a church that's got 2 pastors already. I'm going to be the third wheel. I'm going to do youth ministry and everything else that those pastors don't want to do. And I was upset. And I will tell you right now, I was a little angry at God. I thought, Lord, I've been in the ministries for 12 years. I'm ready to do some ministry. And you're sending me to a place where they've got 2 pastors already. What's up with that? Then the next day, Kurt called. And that's when I found out that Pastor Denke had terminal cancer. That's when I found out that Kurt was part-time pastor and full-time professor at IUS. So then I thought, well, maybe there's some ministry for me to do. So when Kurt went over to Austria, that was, I think that was May and June. And I wasn't ordained until 14th of July, 91. So Pastor Denke had died the 2nd of March, and Kurt went off to Austria on a big plane, and it was me and Grace Lutheran Church, New Albany, Indiana. And when Kurt flew across the pond, we didn't have anybody in the hospital. 2 days later, I'm coming home on 65 after an exhausting day, getting off there at 131, or I guess now it's Lewis and Clark Boulevard. And I was exhausted because we had 8 people in 5 different hospitals. It's like the roof like caved in on me, and I was tired. And as I'm getting off that exit, I'll never forget this. This little voice in the back of my head said, Well, you wanted to do ministry. Yeah. And I laughed out loud, and I just sort of looked towards heaven. I said, Lord, you have a good sense of humor. You got me there. And, you know, I appreciate everything that everybody has said. And my son Dan has got me pegged pretty well. I'm always amazed. You know, I get a lot of good feedback. You guys tell me often that I do a good job and that you appreciate my ministry and that you love me. And I know it's not the same with every pastor, and I'm always sad that it isn't, because I don't know, I always think to myself, it's not rocket science. I just try to love you the way Jesus loves me. I just try to love you. You know, and like you said, you get me as I am. That's it. That's the only guy I know. But for every bit of love that I give out, I get so much back in again. And I cannot imagine how fast those 30 years have gone. You know, I look at those confirmands, Brock and David Poland and Travis. Oh my gosh, Angie over there. That first class, they were a bunch. I had them as 7th graders as the vicar, and I had the 6th graders with them. So I had the two class. I didn't find out till about 2/3 of the way through that they had burned through 2 teachers the year before. And I think David ended up with one-on-one with Himmelheber. So I used every trick in my bag of teacher's tricks to get through that vicarage year, and then they handed me those 8th graders again, and I got them for a second go around. But, oh my gosh, that's just like a few days ago, you know? I have very clear memories of all of that. It's 30 years. So, I don't know how many more years the Lord's going to give me, but I'm going to try to enjoy every single one of them. And what? Here, I'm not going anywhere else. Nobody wants a burned up old 66-year-old pastor anymore. Take my word for it. I've been on a lot of call committees. They take one look at it and they go, oh, he's almost dead. So, no, we're stuck with each other until the Lord says, pull the string. But I can tell you this much. I love you folks, because I've sat here and I looked out and, well, you're all family. You're just family. And even some of you that are fairly new around here, you're part of the family. And what a marvelous family it is. How much I have enjoyed knowing you, being a part of your life. I think of all the confirmations, baptisms, weddings, and funerals, and how those are always, it's part of the family. One of the things that I still count highest is that time and time again when somebody is terminally ill, somebody's really struggling, and I get family, I come to the door and I knock on the door, I ring the doorbell, and then they come and they say, Pastor, the door's open, you don't have to knock, just come in. Well, only family gets to do that at my house, otherwise the general comes out. And so, you know, you've taken me into your hearts, and I take you into mine, and that's, I think, the way it's supposed to be. We're called to love each other and serve the Lord. And so I have been very privileged that I could call Grace Lutheran my home, my congregation, my family. So 30 years went by in a hurry because you are wonderful folks too. So thank you, and God bless you, and thanks for doing this for me today.
Well, that ends our program, but I would be very remiss if I didn't mention a couple people here that really assisted big time in putting this together. Mitzi, Rose, and of course Ryan. So this is all being recorded and will be put on Facebook and whatever. I will tell you, I learned more about Pastor Kischnick in the youth activities in the couple meetings that I had with Mitzi and Rose. It is unbelievable what they do to this guy and what he's done to them. So thank everyone for coming, and I thank the kitchen crew back there for putting this all together, my sister Joan, and with the help of the rest of them back there. But thank you very much for coming.
Before we leave, on another note, time moves on. Guess what we're getting this week? New floors. So, woo! Yes. But that also means that we need a little bit of muscle to move some of the stuff out of the hallways and out of the entryway. If we could just take 10 minutes, I need some help with that. We're going to put them in the fireside room, in the choir room, and if you can help us with that, probably won't take 10 minutes. So I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, thank you for being here. The Lord be with all of you. God bless you. Just hallways and entryway. Mm-hmm. Yep.